Okay, hi. Yeah, just a couple of things to organize here. And just check everything's going okay. On. Okay. So today, each of these classes, this level is just designed to make you think a little bit more, see a little bit more than you saw before. In some cases, they open you up to vastness. Now we've got to go down into, we've looked at the macrocosm. We'll come back to it, but there's also a microcosm of how it applies. So just as you can go out to stars and galaxies and black holes, you can go down into molecules and atoms and inner energy. They're balanced to each other. Even the little atom it runs around like a little solar system. And you could say that even in the movement of the atom and the electrons around, you could put a zodiac in. You could put a zodiac or a horoscope in there to watch the phases of the cycles. So in that way, astrology is really the phase of the cycles. So today we're doing another class on the houses, and this is something I came to, and it's not really. I don't think it's read about anywhere. I call it parallel and perpendicular houses. And fairly simple concept, very profound implications to it, very helpful in working through resolutions of complexes. So when we start, okay, we'll start here. Make sure we're reading again, just double checking. On. Okay, so here we see a spinning top. Okay, this is like your houses. You have the IC at the bottom, you have the MC at the top, you have the horizon, this whole plane on the horizon around it. And we spin around our motivation, we spin on our centering. So this is thinking in a slightly different way, but there we go. So here you can see this would be like the house, the Earth spinning, or the houses spinning, your horoscope spinning on your IC. But the broken lines around it would be like the equator. So the equator would be like, or the horizon. The equator would be the parallel line, the middle point, the balance point, the level point, and the widest point of the top. But the ecliptic or the zodiac is on an angle to it. So because it can be way north, which I have the north in the back here, it could be, the sun could be up above the equator, or it can be down below the equator. And half the year it is below the equator and half the year it's above. It's like that. So in most of the temperate zones, the sun will come up higher in the sky, and we'll have our summer, and it'll go lower, we'll have our winter. But when you get up to the Arctic Circle, and you get near the top of this, you get inside that 23 degrees, 27 minutes from the pole, you get into the Arctic Circle. There's a time, like from the Arctic Circle, only half the zodiac is ever above the horizon. And half is below. Well, the planets will still be in all the areas, they'll be in all these areas, but some will never be seen. So technically what this means, even as it spins around, it's not a question that the zodiac is rising or setting. The zodiac is set, it's half above, half below. But it is turning around, and this is why the houses as such, as we know, like based on the ascendant, Placidian houses is ascendant, the sun's on the ascendant, it's rising above the horizon at the at sunrise. Well, when there's no sunrise in a day, what do? So in that way, most of the house systems don't exactly work within the Arctic Circle. What is in common is that the north-south line, from the north going right overhead the zenith, down across the equator, and going right down to the south pole, the line that goes right across, that would be your midheaven line. It's just that the midheaven line, that's supposedly the highest point in the sky, could be the lowest. It could be down below the horizon where you can't see it. But technically it could be there for half the day. It would be like that. And half of the day, that point could be cutting the zodiac above the horizon. So the unusual thing is that within the Arctic Circle, it's cutting the zodiac and it's below the horizon. So the rising sign is below the horizon. It's not really rising, but it's symbolically there. And you kind of switch to the house system. It's very extreme there anyways. And you switch to the house system and you end up with equal houses from the midheaven, 30 degrees from the midheaven, and it will encompass this, and you're allowing this lapse. So the line still goes, even though in this case, if there was something in Sagittarius, if the rising sign was Sagittarius, it would never rise. But that would be like the eastern horizon. You know, if it's like, so it's an interesting puzzle, but I think if you realize half the zodiac doesn't rise, but planets are in there, there's no longer a rising sign or a setting sign. So a lot of times what happens is this angle gets slanted a little bit, and you can see I'm on a bit of a tangent here, but anyways, it's just this drawing shows it nicely. You can begin to see if it just comes up, sometimes the sun will come up just a little bit for an hour or two and then go down. Sometimes, depending how far up north you would get. If you're right at the pole, you just turn around in this 24 hours. The Earth turns around in 24 hours. You're just standing there, it just turns around 24 hours. There's no movement. It's cold. No. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to touch a little bit about that because you can sort of see what the mechanics of what happens when you're looking at the north line from the top, going right over the zenith overhead, over top of you, going straight down till it cuts the zodiac. It's just only when it cuts the zodiac from inside the Arctic Circle, it's below the horizon. In the northern hemisphere, in the southern hemisphere, it would be below the horizon too. It would be the other half of the zodiac. But okay, the main thing I wanted you to think, we're so used to seeing the ascendant and the descendant, we see it's a line across a chart. And we don't have a depth of perception, just see this line. We've measured the houses are going around, and what's there is there. And we're thinking very simply like that. Like these are little shelves or shelves that you can put things in around the wheel. But actually, it's a plane. It's like the top of a table, top of a round table. So this is the same drawing, but it shows where the ascendant and the descendant would be. And there's the MC and the IC up above. Everything in our life, it spins on our personal integrity, on what motivates us, on how we hold things together within ourselves. How well we do it, how well we don't do it. That determines what we project out in the world, what comes back down into the world, what we project into the ascendant to see where we're going, our intuitive side, our thinking side, our sensation side, our feeling side. This cycle is going on while this thing is spinning. Okay. So let go of start thinking about the northern and southern hemisphere. I'm telling myself that because I was getting into something there. But here in a normal chart, in the tropical charts, in the charts going between the Arctic circles, there will be a planet, the zodiac rises and sets. The whole thing is seeable. It all turns around. So even when it's at the lowest point, it will still be above the horizon. If you're down below the Arctic Circle, it'll always still rise. So they'll always have a rising sign and a setting sign. So we see it as the sign on one rising sign on one side of the chart, the descent on the other side of the chart. We forget to realize that this is not just that two-dimensional thing. It's really a three-dimensional hologram. It's really a texture. So this line of descent is really a horizon, a whole circle, like a plane. Like if you had a round table, it would come up, planets would come up above the table below. So the zodiac, the houses are just telling you the ascendant, descent is where the zodiac and the equator cross, where how they relate to each other, where what's rising and where the zodiac is on that. Okay. Yeah, so we're just back, taking out the wheel, just seeing this, the plane of this is the line of consciousness. The ascendant, descendant, it's a plane, it's a whole sphere, it's a circle. There's a whole half of the universe is a hemisphere above it, and half of the universe is a hemisphere below it. So normally what's below is below the horizon, we can't see it, it's subjective. What's above the horizon, we can see, we can be objective about, we can see a kind of time of day, light, dark, whatever is going above in varying degrees. But this horizon, it's not just a line, it's a whole circle. And because this is, the whole idea of this is spinning, this is a spinning top. It's like a spinning gyroscope, it spins, it moves around. And as it's moving around, our identity of the ascendant and our relationships to others run into each other. So are my relations based on who I project, or what I project based on my relations, what balance between the two? Whereas the midheaven, what's above and what's below stays fixed. Okay, so when we look at the houses now, we're normally seeing it as a circle, but if we draw it like this, we can do it as a circle, it'll be the same thing, but you're seeing the top. That's what I wanted you to see, the spinning top. The fulcrum, the IC is the bottom point, the MC is the top point, rising and setting, and they're spinning into each other. So the rising half of your chart is spinning into the setting half of your chart. They're affecting each other. So we're normally thinking around a circle, and it's going around a circle. As soon as you turn these into three-dimensional, you have hemispheres, you have cycles, you have different, it's more dimensional, multi-dimensional, or three-dimensional. So we still have what's below and what's above. We still have a rising half and a setting half. And they're both spinning. The wind's blowing and it's spinning around on that axis. So depending on your motivation, on your sense of security, on your home, on your last night's sleep, on your link to your mom, on your, where are you coming from? That's your IC. Depending on where you're coming from and how in touch you are with it, how alive you are to that, it projects out, you build up, you begin to express yourself, see what's available around you, put your image together to meet the world, then it projects out into the world to see who you can affect and who you meet and who you can affect and what you can accomplish. Then you start reacting based on what you've accomplished or haven't accomplished or other people's reactions to you. You start developing an understanding of your reaction, whether it's good or bad. That determines the kind of commitments you can attract, financial and otherwise, or the trust you have between people. That determines what relationships you have. So we've got around the wheel like that. And then from the seventh house, as you're relating to people, you take it personally over to descendant. The people you're relating to, you're reacting to. And they give you feedback and you take it personally, it goes in and begins to affect you. So we only have so many people that we're in a relationship to that reach us personally, that say things or react to us that we take personally. A lot of people more out there at careers and in other places that we project out to, but we're not always relating or responding to them, not counting them as valid to respond to as others. We have a lot of judgment going on who's worth responding to, who's not. Well, really, we're responding to everyone. And this is how we respond to our descendant. Then if it's good, we have to make the adjustments. If it's bad, we have to critically make adjustments, sixth house. Then we learn how to perform a little bit better or improve our performance. And then we feel a bit more secure and we're ready to try the next day. That's our basic, excuse me, house centering.